Iquitos is inaccessible by road. You can only get there by plane or boat. The Peruvian city, with 400,000 inhabitants, is tucked away in the middle of the Amazonian rainforest. The people of the rainforest are only allowed to hunt for themselves and their families. In Peru, commercial wildlife hunting is banned, and yet it's possible to buy all sorts of endangered wildlife, live or freshly cooked, at the famous Belén market.
I recently talked to a former wildlife trader and I said, well, at least there's less illegal trade of bushmeat. And she said, we just don't let the public see it. These days when someone says they want something specific, then he makes sure to hide it away in his home.
Gudrun Sperrer has lived in Iquitos for 30 years. She runs a refuge for threatened species. At the market in Belén, she buys fruit and vegetables for her animals. The jungle surrounding Iquitos has been overhunted. These days, the wild animals killed by poachers are very young.
There's a tiny caiman on the table there, and you can see how small it is. Dead, of course, probably 2 or 3 months old. It's terrible that people buy something like that.
The animals are often killed before they've had a chance to reproduce. Species are dying out.
This is ghastly. I don't even know what sort of meat it is. Sacha-vaca, that's even worse. That's tapir, which is threatened with extinction. It must have been very young because tapir grow to quite a size. They can weigh up to 300 kilos. But the problem is, they don't begin to reproduce until they're 6 or 7.
She's in a hurry. The animals are waiting for feeding time. This is the western port of Iquitos. Gudrun Sperrer has to cross the Rio Nanay to Padre Cocha. Founded 24 years ago as a butterfly sanctuary, her refuge is in the middle of the jungle. Today, the Pilpin Tuasi Animal Orphanage is also home to threatened birds and mammals. They live here in conditions that are species appropriate. This jaguar has lived here since it was a cub, when illegal traders simply threw it away.
It was in a wooden crate tied with barbed wire, and it was thrown into the water in the harbor here by someone who was trading illegally with indigenous people and selling all sorts of animals. But he didn't sell the jaguar, and it couldn't even stand on its feet anymore.
A jaguar requires a diet made of up to 70% red meat, or it suffers kidney damage.
Jaguars are endangered because they're losing their habitat. They're loners. Both the male and the female of the species needs 50 square kilometers to itself to find what it needs to feed on. But nowadays there are too many streets and pipelines and they don't want to cross them.
At the market in Belén, traders sell slabs of tapir meat. Gudrun Sperrer has tapirs in her animal sanctuary.
Chibolo was seized by the environmental police because tourists had reported seeing him. He was held on a float in the river as an attraction. His keepers only gave him leftovers to eat, so he was suffering from a damaged liver. But he made a good recovery. He was still striped when he first arrived. When tapirs are young, they look like wild boar, even though they're a completely different species. They're actually most closely related to horses.
Tapirs need to live in areas with a good source of water. These animals managed to survive the Ice Age, but within just 15 years, humans have made them an endangered species. In Pilpin Tuasi, visitors can take tours that raise awareness of the tapir's plight. A total of 55 monkeys live here, including 10 bald uacaris. Their population is also declining rapidly in South America. Woolly monkeys, meanwhile, make popular pets.
When a monkey is sold commercially, the traders kill its mother so that it's docile. This one, his name is Kai, still has 3 bullets in his arm. You can feel them, but there's no need for an operation. So they shoot the mother and then they sell the infant. When they arrive here, they're in a terrible state. They're malnourished, dehydrated. They often have broken bones. They've often suffered falls when their mother was shot.
Back in Iquitos. The Amazon Rescue Center works on species conservation, rescuing various threatened animals that are vital to the ecosystem, including manatees, a marine mammal sometimes known as the sea cow.
Manatees are the largest mammals in the Amazon, but oddly enough, the least well known. When we began our work here, 80% of the inhabitants of Iquitos were completely unfamiliar with this species. Now and then, a baby manatee would end up in their fishing nets, and people would keep them as pets. But then the manatees would die in captivity.
The Amazon Rescue Center is the only place in the world where rescued manatees are raised and then released back into the wild. They take a lot of looking after. The calves need to be fed every 2 hours for the first 2 years. They're lactose intolerant, so they're given a special milk imported from the U.S. One manatee costs the center $10,000 per year. The animals have a gentle, trusting nature.
Hunters kill them when they come up for air by sticking wooden pegs up their snouts. A terrible death for a beautiful, good-natured creature that plays an important role in the ecosystem.
Once the manatees are weaned off milk, they can start to eat aquatic lettuce.
Manatees feed on aquatic vegetation like this here, and other plants that cover the surface of the river. In the places where the manatees have died out, this vegetation starts to proliferate, and the inhabitants suffer because they have less fish and they can no longer go out on their boats because of all the plant growth clogging up the water.
The rainforest of Iquitos is a vast biotope. If its natural balance is threatened, it has consequences for wildlife and inhabitants in the whole region.